Hello and welcome to this video on how to create a steel frame structure. First we want to open a new project, so we click on New and then we will select the via template and click Open and make sure that you have marked that you want to create a new project, then click OK. And now we will start by opening one of the elevations. And we can see that the via template have the different levels, but in this case we don't need to have the basement, so we'll just mark it and then delete it and click OK. And we will do the same with the first floor. And now we will just edit the levels. For example, the foundation will be -1050. The level for the ground floor is okay, but we just want to change the numbers both for the grid line but also the number 02. So we will call it 01. And then we get this message right here, and it's basically just saying that it will also change the names for the other views. For example, we have the floor plan called 02 ground floor terrain. So if I click yes on this one, it will change to 01 and do the same with the ceiling plan. So when I say yes, it will now change, so it's called 01 ground floor. So this is okay. And we also want to change the number, so it will be number 2 for the grid line. And then for the roof, let's say we want to have it 4 meters, so we'll just type in 4000. And also we will change the number right here, so it will be 02 and roof. And again click yes to this part. And then we just want to change the number within the grid line, so it's number 3, just like this. And now if we start by opening the ground floor, then to begin with we need to create some grid lines. And if you are in the architecture menu, then under datum we have the grid lines, so we'll just select the grid and draw the first grid line like this. And now we want to copy it, so we will just select it, and then we can either use the copy tool or we can use the array tool. In this case I will just select the array tool, and up here I can type in the number of grid lines that I need in total. Let's say I want to have 6. In this case it means that I will have 6 steel structured, so each of them will have their own grid lines. So I'll just type in 6, and the next part is to click somewhere on the grid line and then move it in the direction that you want it, and you can type in the distance that you want between the grid lines. And I just type in 3.9 meters and then hit enter. And you will see that Revit will automatically update the numbers within the grid lines. And now we just need to have one in the horizontal direction, or have a couple of grid lines. So again we will select the grid and draw like this. But in the horizontal direction we will have a letter instead of a number, so we'll just mark it and type in A. And now we want to copy this grid line. So again I will use the array tool, and I want to have a total of 3 grid lines, and the distance that I want between them is half the span of the overall structure. So let's say I want to have a total span, or let's put it a total span of 12 meters, so I will put it 6 meters apart like this. So the grid line B will be the center point of where I have my beam spanning. So if I will have a column at the intersection between grid line 1 and grid line A, and also a column at grid line 1 and C, then the beams will span to the center point of grid line B. So if we start to add the columns, then we will go into the structure menu and select column. And we can see in properties that the VIA template only have one type. But after you finish your calculations and chosen the type of column that you want, you can change it by clicking on edit type, and then you make a duplicate, and in here you give it a name, and then just make sure that you change the dimensions and the values for the structure. I'll just say okay to this one, and before I place it, I will just set the height and make sure that the height is set to the roof, and then I can just place it at the grid line or at the intersection between the grid line 1 and A, and also I need to have one at the grid line 1 and C, like this, and hit escape twice. If I open the 3D view, we can now see that we have the two columns. Let me just show both the floor plan and the grid lines. This one I can just close, as well as this one. So then we will be able to see both the floor plan and the 3D mode. So the next step is to add the beams. So again, we will go into the structure menu and select the beam. And again, we only have one type in the VIA template, but just create your own by duplicating or load a family. So before we place it, we want to select the right level, and we want to place it at the roof. So now we can just click from the column and then to the center point of the span. Yeah, and this warning is just saying that I'm not able to see it in this floor plan right here, but we can see it's correctly placed in the 3D view. So I also want to place one from the other column and then to the center point, like this, and just close the warning. So now we have the columns and the beams, and we just want to add an elevation. So if you go to view and then select elevation and then framing elevation, and you can place the framing elevations when you have placed a grid line. So you need to snap to one of the grid lines, in this case the grid line 1, and just click here. And you will see in the project browser that we now have an elevation called elevation 1A. So just double click on it. And this is the elevation of our steel structure. It's a bit difficult to see, but if in the bottom we set the detail level to fine, and also we can set the visual style to shaded, then we can see we have the steel structure. And let me just make this frame a little bigger. If you don't have the frame right here, you can turn it on. If you go to the bottom and select the crumb region, here you can just turn it on and off. So just select it and then drag the small dots so you can make the frame a little bigger. So here we can modify the structure. Let's say we want to have a slope of the structure, so it will meet somewhere, have a top point at the grid line B, and then slope again down to the connection with the column. So if I select the first beam, then in the properties I can type in a dimension that I want to offset this this part right here, and it will either be the start level or the end level. It depends how you place the beams. We had the starting points at the columns and the end point at the beams. So in this case we will have to type in the offset at the end level, and let's say we want to offset it, let's say 600 millimeters or 600 60 centimeters, and then click apply. And we will do the same with the other beam, like this. And we want them to overlap each other, so we can trim them afterwards. So we just select this beam and click on the arrow, which we can just drag. And now we see that they are overlapping each other at the center point, so this is okay. And also we just want to connect the beam and the column. So again, just click on the beam and then click on the arrow, and you can just drag it. We will modify this connection later, and we will do the same at the other connection.